So, students, welcome again. Mm, in our last class, that is a few minutes ago, I told you about starting a new chapter. And today we are going to start a new story that is The Scarecrow by Satyajit Ray. And you must have heard about Satyajit Ray. He was a great filmmaker. I'm saying filmmaker because he was not only a producer, he was also a director, an actor, whatnot. Okay, great figure of our country. And here we find that he was also a writer, story writer. So that's great. Okay, so a paragraph has been given here. I'm going to read out. It's about the author. But before reading the paragraph, let us discuss what is a scarecrow. Have you heard this word scarecrow? Now, see, if you just divide these words, you will find two more words. One is scare, the other is crow. Scare means to frighten somebody. Crow, it's a bird. So these two words all together, if we, uh, you know, joined, then we find the word scarecrow. So if you have heard about this word and know, that's good. But if you have not heard, have you seen a scarecrow? So you must have seen a scarecrow because this is very common. In Assam only we have so many villages where the main profession is agriculture. Okay, livelihood is agriculture. So what do the farmers do? In order to scare birds, they make a figure. I should say they make a frame where they put a figure, and that figure is similar to a human being. How do they do that? They put an earthen pot upside down on a stick, and what do? They make eyes, nose, mouth, and all these things. They draw upon the pot and put it in the middle of the field to frighten birds so that their field can be saved. Okay, this is what a scarecrow is. And now I'm going to read out a paragraph given in your book itself about the author. Listen carefully. About the author. Satyajit Ray, 2 May 1921, 23 April 1992, was born in the city of Calcutta, now known as Kolkata, in West Bengal, into an illustrious Bengali family known for its contribution to the arts and literature. His grandfather, Upendra Kishore Ray Chowdhury, was an eminent writer, a renowned publisher, and a prominent leader of the Brahmo Samaj. His father, Sukumar Ray, was a pioneer in the field of Bengali nonsense verse. His anthology of nonsense rhyme Abol Tabol 1923 brought him immense fame as a writer of children's literature. He was also an illustrator and a critic of repute. Then, born into a family with such rich cultural heritage, Satyajit Ray, who did his BA in economics from the famous Presidency College, Kolkata, and studied fine arts at Vishwa Bharati University. Santiniketan went on to become one of the greatest filmmakers of the country. His first film, Pathir Pachali, 1955, bagged 11 international awards, including one at Cannes Film Festival. Ray is perhaps the only filmmaker in the country to have received 32 National Film Awards, along with quite a few international awards, and in 1991, an honorary Academy Award, that is Oscar Award. He was also a proud recipient of the Bharat Ratna. Ray was also a novelist, a film critic, a music composer, a graphic designer, and an immensely skilled writer of short stories. His detective and science fiction stories featuring Sleuth, Feluda, and the scientist Professor Sanko, respectively, are widely popular. His short stories stand out particularly for their exploration of the supernatural and fantastic, and for their lucid style and brevity of expression. Mullah Nasruddin, a collection of humorous stories in Bengali, has been undoubtedly read and reread. The literary journal XII published most of his screenplays written in Bengali. In 1982, Ray wrote an autobiography about his childhood years titled Jakhan Chota Chilam. The films 1976, Bishoy, Chalachitra 1976, and Eke Bole Shooting 1979 are collections of essays he wrote on different aspects of cinema. So, students, this was a paragraph on Satyajit Ray. Of course, we cannot just understand about Satyajit Ray from a small paragraph as the one I have just read. He was a figure that himself constituted an institution. I mean, he constituted an institution in himself, right? Such was Satyajit Ray. And in this story, we'll be having characters and plot. I told you about all these elements of a story when we started our classes through voice. Okay, in our first class itself, I told you about plot, characters, subplot, climax, beginning, middle, end. Okay, sometimes uh, morale of a story. Sometimes there is a moral teaching. Sometimes it lacks. Okay, doesn't matter. A moral teaching. Uh, is not a must, in a story. So there may be and there may not be. So these are the things you are already accustomed with, or you are familiar with. So I'm going to read out the paragraphs followed by explanation. Right. Murganka Babu's suspicions were confirmed just as they were about to reach Panagar. His car ran out of petrol. The petrol gauge had not been functioning properly for quite a while. Now, see, you can say GAUGE, either gag or gauge. Same. Okay. Sometimes people say gauge, sometimes people say gauge or gauge. Okay, you can say gauge also. The most popularly pronounced is gauge. Okay. So the petrol gauge. Okay. He had pointed this out to his driver, Sudhir, before they set out this morning. But Sudhir had paid no attention. There had in fact been less petrol in the tank than the gauge had shown. Now, this is the paragraph about two characters we get to know. One is Mriganka Babu. Okay. And in fact, Mriganka Babu is the main character of the story. And the other is Sudhir, right? So here we find that Mriganka Babu was suspicious of one thing, that um, you know the car that he was using to go to Panagar. Panagar is a place, could run out of petrol. Okay, so he had this suspicion that his car could run out of petrol. Okay, because the petrol gauge was not working properly. It was not functioning properly. And Sudhir, the driver, also made a mistake. Hmm? He never gave importance to such things, even if he was told. Right? So, here it says that he had pointed this out to his driver. So, he means, Mriganka Babu. Mriganka Babu had pointed this thing to Sudhir, that the petrol gauge was not working properly. But you see what was the problem here? But Sudhir did not pay any attention. Okay. And what happened? There was less petrol in the petrol tank. So that is what is given in the first paragraph. So we get to know that there are two characters here. One is Sudhir, that is the driver, and Mriganka Babu, he's the main character of the play. I mean the story. So let's move to the next mm, lines. Now, one thing I want to tell you, that here you see we are told about Mriganka Babu and Sudhir. So who is the narrator? Or in what person the narration is? The narration is in third person, right? Because none of the characters is telling the story. It is the writer himself who is telling us the story. So the character is in the narration is in third person, and it is not a character from the story itself, right? So let me read out the next lines. What are you going to do now? Mraganka Babu asked. What are you going to do now? Okay, I will walk to Panagar and come back with more petrol. Sudhir replied. How far is Panagar? About 3 miles. That means I must wait here for at least 2.5 hours. It's all your fault. What am I going to do? Have you thought of that? Now, it happened as Mriganka Babu suspected. The car ran out of petrol in the middle of the road. I mean, in the middle of the journey. Okay, on the middle of the road, in the middle of the journey. So, Mriganka Babu asked, Sudhir, what are you going to do now? Okay, he replied that he was going to walk over to Panagar, and from there he would bring petrol, come back and put petrol inside the petrol tank, and then they would start their journey. So that was really, irritating for Mriganka Babu. He was very angry. He was very angry. So he said, how far is it? It's about 3 miles, 3 miles away. So 3 miles away, if a person walks 3 miles up and down, of course it will take a long time. So Mriganka Babu says in the story, that means I must wait here for at least 2.5 hours. Now see, that is the time I was talking about, the long time period of time. Um, that would be taken by Sudhir. Okay, so Mruganga Babu said that he would have to wait there at least for 2 or more than 2 hours. That means 2.5 hours. So that is the difficulty. Now he said, "What would I do here?" Okay, that is your fault. I told you, I pointed out in the morning that the petrol gauge is not working, and you never gave any importance to it. You did not notice it. I told you, you did not notice it. So he says that Mrigangava says that it is your fault. It's not my fault. And for your fault, I'm suffering now. I'll be suffering. I have to wait here for a long time till you come back with petrol and then fill it up. Then then we will go. That's a long process. So, Mriganka Babu is very angry here, right? So let's see the next lines. Well, you'd better leave. Can we make it back to Calcutta by 8 o'clock? It's now 3:30. You better leave. This is said by Mriganka Babu. So Mriganka Babu said, you should go by now because if you stay here listening to me or waiting, you would be just killing your time and we would be late. And then he asked, was it possible for them to move back from Panagar to Calcutta by 8 o'clock? Okay. Oh yes, sir. We will certainly be back by 8. Now this is said by Sudhir. Sudhir said that it was possible that after going to Panagar and coming back from there, they would be before 8 moving towards Calcutta. In fact, they would be into Calcutta before 8. Okay. When I'm saying into Calcutta, that means into the city of Calcutta. Okay. Here's the money for the petrol. Don't make this mistake again. You must never take such a risk on a long journey. Now, here we find it's very simple. Mriganka Babu handed him over uh, the money to buy petrol, and he warned he warned at the same time that never make such a mistake again in your life, because when somebody is moving going in a long journey, such problems could you know create more problems. Because now Mriganka Babu, you see, he would have to stay there alone, and he didn't know anyone nearby, so that would create more problems. Okay, so let us see and go to the next lines. So they took the money and left for Panagar. So they took money to buy petrol and left for Panagar. Mriganko Sekar Mukhopadhyay was a famous and popular writer. A club in Durgapur had invited him to a cultural function in order to felicitate him. He could not get a reserved seat on train, hence his departure by car. He had left for Durgapur quite early in the morning, soon after a cup of tea. He was now on his way back. He was not one to believe in superstitions, and certainly he never consulted the almanac before traveling anywhere. However, now it did occur to him that if he had bothered to look at the almanac today, it would not be surprising to find that it forbade long journeys. Now, this is a long paragraph. Here, the narrator, that is the writer, tells about Mriganka Babu. So, Mriganka Babu is the main character of the story. And in this character, in the story, Mriganka Babu is a writer. He's a popular writer. Don't mix it up. Don't mix it up. Satyajit Ray, he's a writer. He's, of course, he was a great writer. But Mriganka Babu is a character in the story. So Mriganka Babu is also a writer. Okay. So Mriganka Babu was a famous and a popular writer. And he was invited by a club in Durgapur to be felicitated. Okay, felicitated means to be honored. Okay, so Mriganka Babu was invited by a club, and this is what he was talking about, the journey he was making towards Panagar. Now, see, Panagar is a different place, and Durgapur is a different place. So he went there. He could not get a reserved seat on train, so he had to go by car. He went there. He was felicitated there. Then, when he was moving back, that means returning, the incident took place. That means his car ran out of petrol. Okay, so he went there. He got off early in the morning. Then he both Sudhir and Mriganka Babu, they went to Durgapur. And while coming back, that is returning from Durgapur, their car ran out of petrol. And one thing very important is that Mriganka Babu was not the one who believed in superstitions. Superstition, sometimes, we have customs of believing things. People take these things in different ways. Some people feel that these are just, you know, false things. Some people believe that these are true things. So superstitions are those where people don't keep their fate. Okay, so Mriganka Babu was not a superstitious person, so he did not believe in almanac. Now, what is an almanac? Almanac, this is a book where many information regarding journeys can be found. That is, in Assamese, also we have such almanacs where you find time, good time, bad time. What is it called? When to take an action, when not to take an action. Okay, when to do things. So this is altogether an information about your actions. He did not consult the almanac. Okay, he did not consult the almanac, and he thought that because he did not consult the almanac, it happened that his car ran out of petrol. If he had consulted the almanac, he could stop the journey. Okay, he could stop the journey and he won't have to face such a problem. So, students, let us stop here. It's more than 25 minutes. So, 25 minutes in a continuous way may make you feel, very tired. So, let us stop here. In our next class, we will continue from here onwards. Till then, bye. Okay.